The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the ATHE Conference Session Proposal Training Webinar. My name is Sean Franklin Sewell, and I'm the ATHE Communications Manager. I have Joan Brummer Holden, who is the ATHE Registration Manager, on the line with me, and she'll be taking you through the webinar today. Joan, welcome.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We are going to walk through the session proposal, and just to let you know right up front that this this PowerPoint will be available on the web, and I wanted to let you know that because I'm going to be flipping over to the actual website for a portion of this to walk us through the session proposal website. So if you want the PowerPoint for reference, you'll be able to access it. The purpose of this session proposal training is to familiarize you with the do's and don'ts of submitting a session proposal, alert you to important formatting procedures, and answer any questions you have. There have been some changes to the 2014 session proposal, including some updating of deadlines, and we will cover all of these in the presentation. Throughout the presentation, we have put in place question and answer sessions, and in which case you can either, Sean, can they type in their question, or are we going to open the mics?
No, since we've got 29 people on the call, I'd recommend typing in the question.
Okay, so you'll see in your control panel that there's a place for you to type in your question, and then Sean will alert me to that, and we'll respond to it. And there's places throughout the seminar we'll stop for that. So, beginning the session proposal, it's an online process, and if you haven't been there already, you go to www.athe.org. You click on conferences, following the yellow arrow there, and once you click on conferences, it will take you to the sessions page, and the sessions page will look like this at the top of the page: propose a session for ATHE 2014. Visit this page to propose a session. Once you click on visit this page to propose a session, it will take you into the proposal form itself. But I wanted to point out some other things that are on that page before we go forward and dig into the session proposal. New this year is the pre-conference granting forms. There's a link there. So if you're a focus group coordinator that is helping plan the pre or post conference, you will need to, by November 1st, submit a request and a grant request. The focus group pre-conferences rooms at the 2014 conference hotel, which is the Fairmont Scottsdale Princess, are awarded on a first-come, first-served basis. However, if you are not planning to do your pre or post-conference at the hotel, you still need to submit a request form so that Nancy knows which events are happening throughout the conference, before and after the conference. There have been a couple of pre-conference webinars. I believe they are both completed. Is that correct, Sean?
That is correct.
So those webinars are up on the website now. So if you have questions about the pre-conference or how to apply for the pre-conference or to apply for a grant, you can look up those webinars on the website. The other thing you will find on this page is the frequently asked questions, and a lot of this this webinar has been taken from the questions that have been asked in these frequently asked questions and built around that. So this is also another great place to go for a resource, and you can drill down on each of these links to, as we said, propose a session, look up questions about the session proposal process, look up information about the multidisciplinary panels, which we will also cover in this webinar, and visit the page for questions about conference grant and guest pass requests, which we'll cover all of these areas in the webinar, but it's nice to know that you have another place to go and look for information and resource. So once you click, so here I'm actually going to flip over to the website itself so that you can see. I go to conference, I'm at www.athe.org, conference sessions. I click on visit this page to propose a session. And the first thing you see is a outline of the theme of the 2014 conference in Scottsdale, Dream Acts, Performances, Refuge, Resistance, and Renewal. And what this does is it gives you an idea of what the conference planners are looking for in terms of focus of the sessions. So it's a great place to look and see if what you are thinking about will fit in with this conference. And this is proposed by the VP of Conference, Sonia Kuftanich. And you can also contact her. She will be listed at the end of this webinar as well if you have questions about whether your proposal, actually the first place you should probably go is your conference planner to see if your proposal fits, if you have questions, and then they may refer you to Sonia. At the end of this page, you would click Next, and this would take you to a page that we will review several times throughout this webinar called Helpful Hints for Completing Your Session Proposal. We keep returning to these because they are very important, not just for you as submitters of the proposal, but for us, the ATHE staff, myself and Sean and Cynthia and Nancy, who are actually working with all of the data you submit. And if you can imagine, there's about 350 sessions that are submitted, maybe more, and each of those sessions has anywhere from 2 to 7 presenters with paper titles and names and affiliations. And we are tracking all that information. I think, if I do say so myself, we do pretty good. But following these hints will really help us make that process efficient and less error prone. So a few things to notice and that we'll go over as we hit the certain areas is cutting and pasting into the session proposal form is a bad idea. It's a good idea to type directly into the form. We'll talk about the italicizing of names and plays, how we work with that process. I actually am not going to go over this step by step. It's here for your reference, and as we get to the individual areas where it makes the most sense, I will come back to these. I'm going to go back now to the PowerPoint. It's recommended as you go through this that you print out each page as a record of your submission. The background database that we use for this is SurveyMonkey for our session proposal forms. So we don't have a way to summarize each page for you, so it's best if you really want to know what you've done on each page to print it out using your browser's print function. Enter the information online. I've already mentioned this, and you will hear me mention it several more times. Please do not cut and paste from another document, from Word, from rich text, from text edit, any of those. Do not use all caps in the proposal for emphasis. Do not quote unnecessarily, meaning you don't need to put quotes around the title of your paper because we'll have to go in and remove them because we don't put them in the program book or brochure that way, and it causes all kinds of errors in alphabetization because we work with an Excel program once we pull all the data from the database. Please, you don't need to add periods at the end of session titles or paper titles. If you are going to most of the staff is involved in the theater community. However, we are not familiar with every play that has ever been written. So it is great for you to alert us if something needs to be italicized. Unfortunately, the way the proposal form works, if you italicize it when you enter it into the form, when we download it from the database, that italicization gets removed. So we've we've found a workaround to this, and it's not the most elegant, but it will be the most practical in the end. So what you want to do is anything that you want the staff to italicize in the final proofing of the brochure, you put 2 asterisks around it as shown on the screen, and that alerts us that we need to italicize that particular set of words. And this is particularly important with new plays that we may not be familiar with, or more experimental plays from different countries in which we are not experts, to give us a clue that we need to, or a cue that we need to make sure that that's italicized in the program book. What you're seeing here is what happens if you cut and paste from a word processing such as Word into the form, and it gets downloaded into Excel. Or if you are, unfortunately, if you're putting something in that has accent or a tilde or something like that from Spanish or French, or umlauts from Germany, from the German language, we get some funky programming. The reason we ask you not to do that is because if you can imagine, as I said, 350 proposals, 5 paper titles per proposal, about 1,700 pieces of data that we sift through, and we have to try to figure out what you meant to say, or whether your name needs an accent or a tilde on it. It's much easier for you to take the time to enter it directly into the form. And Sean, I believe that in the past you've mentioned something about how we work with names that have like French accent on them or something.
If you have a name that has an accent that you can't type in for some reason into the forum, which you can, go ahead and type the name in without the accent and then email Joan and let her know.
Yes, and that's the same with playwrights or titles of plays. And it's better to just email me directly after you've entered in your session proposal to let me know. Otherwise, in the end, what will happen is I'll end up emailing you at some later date and asking you about it. And if you're on top of it, then, and I'm on top of it, then neither of us will forget. So I know we haven't gotten very far, but particularly I have some questions. I'm hoping that you have questions that I can answer at this point about entering data in. It seems to be a hot topic these days. Are there any questions out there?
So if anyone has questions, go ahead and type them into the question box in the GoToWebinar control panel on the left-hand side of your, or I'm sorry, the right-hand side of your screen. I'll read those questions to Joan, and Joan will answer them. I'll answer them myself if I happen to know the answer. James asks, what is your email address, Joan?
Oh, James. It's on the end of this webinar, but I will tell it to you right now, but you don't have to write it down because it'll be, you'll see it again at the end of the presentation. But it's sessions, SESSIONS, at athe.org.
Kevin anyway asks, can we paste from Word or other software if we do the paste special and paste or paste as unformatted text?
That's your question, Sean.
Kevin, the answer is no. You wouldn't have any, it doesn't have anything to do with the way that Word does it. Well, it does have a lot to do with Word, the way that Word does it, but the system wouldn't have any way to recognize that you did that.
Other questions?
Are there
No.
any other questions? Okay, Joan, I don't see any.
Great. So here are some important dates to remember, and this date is approaching soon. The deadline for all submissions is November 1st. Pretty much everything is due November 1st. Grant applications are due November 1st. Proposals for all focus group conference planners and committee chairs need to submit a proposal for at least one business meeting or membership meeting. That needs to be submitted as a session proposal by November 1st. If you are a conference planner or a committee chair out there listening to this, know that you do not have to rank those. They will be automatically scheduled. One membership meeting and one business meeting will automatically be scheduled. Any other meetings need to be submitted through the session proposal process. This includes group dinners, off-site forums, play events, anything like that needs to be scheduled. And Nancy is the master of all schedules, and she wants to know of anything that's going on during those conference days. Focus group debut panels also must be submitted by November 1st, the panels themselves. But if you are the organizer for your focus group of your debut or emerging scholar panel, you can submit the names at a later date. We will accept those name submissions by May 1st, but the panel itself, the idea that you will be having a panel for your scholars, must be submitted by November 1st. So some things to know is that Sean, we were getting very specific last time. The actual deadline is 12 midnight Pacific Standard Time on November 1st, or 11:59 on November 1st, 12 midnight on November 2nd Pacific Time. Is that correct?
12 midnight, November 2nd.
Pacific Standard Time.
Correct.
Great. Changes that will be accepted before May 1st. So you want to do your best to make sure everything in your session proposal is set up correctly, but we do accept certain changes before May 1st. Those changes are changes to chair, session coordinator, panelists, affiliation changes, session title changes, paper title changes. There is a change request form that you will be able to get from the website or from your conference planner or focus group rep, and any changes need to be submitted through that form. And those changes will all be accepted up to May 1st. After May 1st, we do not accept any changes except cancellations of panels or changes to dates and times, and any of those changes must be requested through Nancy Erickson. So now I'm going to go back to the website itself to show you, to again walk through the website. So we just looked at the hints and proposals page, and I click on next. This takes us to the information that I just shared with you about deadlines. I click next again, and then it comes up to the first page where I actually start entering important information. First, I have decided at this point whether I have a single focus group sponsor or a single committee. So if I'm submitting just for the acting focus group, I would select this one. If I'm submitting a meeting for the electronic communications committee, I would click here. And if I'm submitting a multidisciplinary panel, I would click here. We will talk about the multidisciplinary panel in a minute, but you will notice that it says 3 focus groups or some combination of focus groups and committees. Now, the multidisciplinary panel could be a panel with the acting focus group and the performance studies focus group and the electronic committee, or it could be the directing group, the dramaturgy group, and the design and tech group. It needs to be sponsored by at least 3 groups to be a multidisciplinary panel, and all of those sponsoring groups must be in agreement and contacted before the proposal is submitted. So you can't just hope that someone will sponsor you after the fact. You actually have to contact each of the groups before you submit your proposal and have their approval. And the reason for this is they will receive a ranking sheet for ranking all of the sessions that they are listed as a sponsor, and if they've never heard of you or heard from you, they can reject your proposal. So you want to make sure you have everyone on board before you submit a multidisciplinary proposal. So after you decide whether you're doing a single focus group, you select which focus group is sponsoring it. If you are a committee, you would select the committee. And if it was a multidisciplinary session, you would select 3. You must select your top 3. Those are the 3 that are listed in the program book and the brochure. If you have 5 people sponsoring you, that's fantastic, but we're still only going to list the top 3 people who your number 1, 2, and 3 sponsors. Then in the next number 5, you indicate what kind of session you're proposing, whether it's a panel with papers or a discussion, performance, and the list of what all of these are is in the FAQs. You can see what each of these panels is. And then once you've selected that, you'll see those of you out there who are working in focus group rep land or committee rep land will see that there's a place for you to select your committee. And then you would click next. Sorry, when you get to the next spot, you will see that you need to enter in information on session title, the session description, and the session abstract. Now, these 3 things have different purposes. The session title will be listed in the brochure. The session title and the session description will be listed in the program book. The session abstract is for the people ranking and vetting your sessions to let them know what your goals and objectives and how they align with the theme of the conference. And that gives them information for the ranking process. And the people who do the ranking are the focus group reps and the focus group conference planners who have been working with the Vice President of Conference, Sonia, over the last year to plan for the tenor of the conference in Scottsdale. Things to know here: the title needs as a 15-word limit. Again, you don't need to put a period at the end of the title. You do not need to use quotes for emphasis. You do not need to use quotes to at the beginning and end of the title. And if you have a reflection on the use of puppetry in the Uber Marionette and Avenue Q, you want to make sure that there are 2 asterisks around the title Avenue Q. That gives us the note again that we need to make sure that it's italicized when we put it in the brochure and the program book. If you, for some reason, submit a title that's longer than 15 words, we will kick it back to you to edit, or we will edit it ourselves. This is the same with the session description. It is a 25-word. It's your elevator speech about your session, single-spaced, and it is also will be edited by us, and we do check the word counts on those if you do not edit it yourself. It's just a way for people to look, get excited, and interested about your session. And this is another place where copy and pasting is not recommended. The next thing you need to choose is your audio visual. And there's a few new things this year that those of you who have done sessions before will be excited to hear. One is because of the contract negotiations with the Fairmont for this year, that all members proposing a conference session can take advantage of free Wi-Fi in the session rooms for the presenter. So this means, unlike in the past, you will not have to pay for internet access in your room. The presenter of the session will be given a code, a password, that's what they're called these days, a password for the Wi-Fi in your room. The other thing that's exciting about this year is that you get to select one free piece of audio-visual aid for your session at no cost, free, no cost. And you can choose either an LCD package, which is a screen and a projector, the audio for the laptop, CD players and speakers, or a flip chart if you're just doing writing and brainstorming kinds of things. But the difference between these two things right here, just so you have this in mind, is that an LCT package has no audio. So if you're just showing slides or doing a PowerPoint presentation or Prezi or something like that, you might want to choose that. If you are doing a clip from the internet, from a YouTube, that needs an audio for your laptop, you might want to include this. The trick to that, though, or if you're just playing a piece of music that you want them to hear or something like that, you can choose a CD player and speakers. So you choose one of these for free, but if you're planning on showing a longer presentation with PowerPoint that also needs a YouTube clip, you could choose the LCD package for free and then additional audio for the laptop that has a cost of $100. So for the second piece of equipment, you must apply, well, you don't have to apply for a grant, but if you would like to have that equipment covered through a grant for the second piece, you would need to apply for a conference audiovisual grant for any of these three pieces, and you can see the associated costs. So for me, it would make more sense to choose this package for free and then apply for a grant for the laptop. And then any additional equipment, or if you don't get a grant, you would need to pay for that equipment, and we would need that payment in the office no later than May 1st. And this is per session, so per session that you're proposing. So a couple of things, and then finally you want to list whether you're doing a noisy session, if you're going to have a lot of singing or vocalizing, or if you're going to be running around rolling on the floor. You want to let us know so that we make sure we give you a room of the appropriate size. And then also, would you like your room set up open with chairs in the perimeter, or theater style, which is a proscenium style setup, which is table in the front for the presenters and rows of chairs facing them. If there's some kind of creative way, like last year they used the idea of the long table. If there's some other creative way you'd like to set up your session, you need to specify that for us. So as we're working on assigning rooms, when we do our scheduling, we'll know how to help you. So I'm just going to skip back to the PowerPoint for a quick second, because I want to specifically point out this as you're thinking through your audio visual. It's very important that you think not just what you're going to do in your session, but what are your presenters going to do. And over the past 4 years that I've been working on these conferences, I've seen more and more people wanting to do multimedia or interactive media presentations, but a lot of times the panelists don't let their session coordinator know until the last minute, and that can cause some issue on site. So I encourage you to ask, what are the AV needs of my presenters? Who's going to bring the laptop, because you will need to bring your own laptop. If you're not bringing a PC, do I have the correct Mac adapter? To think about, if I'm doing a YouTube clip, I'm definitely going to need audio. How am I going to do that? Am I going to bring my own speakers to hook up to my laptop, or am I going to order them through the AV? So all of these are very important, and really you should be thinking about these before you come on site or the day before your presentation. It will save you a lot of stress later. I actually want to stop there. I don't have a question slide there, but I would like to stop there because that was a lot of download of information, particularly about the AV. So does anybody have any questions about that before we move on?
So as a reminder, just ask your questions in the question box in the GoToWebinar control panel on the right-hand side of your screen. Joan, I will say that Kevin anyway said, yay, when you said that one piece of audiovisual will be included free.
Great. Thank you, Kevin. We've been listening to you, not you in person, but everyone's responses over the years, and we're trying to facilitate an easier process for you. Anyone? Really? No one has any questions about the
Anna does have.
AV?
Anna does have a question. She says, where are the FAQs located on the ATHE website?
Oh, sure. So I went to conference, Anna, sessions, and when I click on sessions, it takes me have questions, we have answers. Here's where you'll find all the FAQs. And in addition, you'll be able to find the webinars for the focus group conference rep, for the submitting a session proposal, and for the pre-conference. Any other questions?
And Kevin says, where will we find this PowerPoint later?
In the same place, is that correct, Sean? It'll be here too.
Yep.
It will be in the same place. So basically, if you go to conference sessions, hopefully all your answers will be there.
Last year's PowerPoint and session proposal video are currently on the page.
Right. This is the old one, but if I do say so, I've gotten much better since last year. So you should wait until last year, until this year's session. Any other questions? Well, we're hoping that the free Wi-Fi in the rooms for the presenters and the free piece of AV will also help make your presentations more robust, and that you will be a little bit more stress-free on the day of. So I'm going to go forward. So I've gone past where we just were in the AV proposal area, and now to the part where you're entering in names and information of your panelists. And again, the helpful reminders are here. Just so you know, we don't put any of the PhD, MFA, MA, ABD, doctor, none of that goes into the brochure. I mean, into the program book. We just use your first and last name in the program book, or your hyphenated name or whatever, but we don't use any of these suffixes. Sorry. We don't use departmental names. We only use Louisiana State University. We don't use Louisiana State University Department of Theater, so there's no reason to include that. It is also to your benefit to spell out the university names, not just to your benefit, but to our benefit as well. So the name is listed as it is intended to be listed. I know there's been some debate about this in the past, but just know that we go through and correct all of the names to make them consistent. And it's difficult if some people put City University of New York, some people put CUNY, some people put University of Illinois hyphen Urbana-Champaign, some people put University of Illinois comma Urbana-Champaign. So we like consistency in the program book, and we do our best to create it, but you can help us out by following the do side of these helpful reminders, and when you're entering in this information, and knowing that your paper title should be limited to 15 words. Every session needs a session coordinator. Please make sure this information is filled out, especially the email address and the daytime phone number. As I sift through the 1,700 pieces of data, if I have questions, it is very useful for me to have someone that I can go to so that I can make sure that all of the information that we have regarding your session is correct. There is a place for a session chair, and then there is a place for up to 10 participants, and the information is the same throughout, and the way of entering it is the same throughout. Make sure that all the names are spelled correctly up front, specifically names, hyphenated names, or names with where a middle name looks like a last name, making sure that all that is in there correctly, because we do our best to make sure everybody's name is spelled exactly as it should be. But the more you can help us by doing it correctly at this stage, the easier it will be to translate into all of the other documents later. So if I go to this, so this this is blank, but had I entered in any information before, you would see the session sponsor, the session type, all of the information I entered would be on this session proposal submission. So this is similar to a summary, and it would be a nice place for you to print it out if you want that information, and you would need to use your browser's print program, which is usually somewhere around here, File, Print, and then you could print your screen. If you if you're working with a Mac like I am, you can use Capture or Grab and grab sections of this and print them and make sure you have all of them saved. The most important thing to remember here is to click Submit, but you're not done yet. You will see this page which says, thank you for submitting your 2014 conference proposal. You will, Sean, is it true that they will still not receive an email confirmation that their proposal has been submitted?
That is true.
Great. So then you will click Submit a second time. Here is where some people fell off last year. They clicked Submit once and then closed out of the screen. You need to click Submit twice. And then you will see this, thank you for taking the survey. This is what tells you that the database powering our form is the SurveyMonkey database. This is when you know you've officially submitted your proposal. I'm going to go back over here. And see if there are any questions so far before we get into the grants part of it.
We had one question from Anna Demers,
Sure.
which I already answered, and that is, is it okay for the session coordinator and chair to be the same person? And I said, yes, it is, but please put their information in both places.
That is correct, because that way, Anna, it makes it easier for us to download that information into our form.
And James McMaster asks, what is the difference between a session coordinator and a session chair?
The session coordinator doesn't necessarily have to present. They're just the person who I'm not sure if this is entirely true, but I believe that they're the person who just has the idea for the session and coordinates getting all the panelists together, and they can assign a chair to facilitate the panel on the day of.
That is correct. The session coordinator is also the person with whom Joan, with whom the focus group conference planners will coordinate. So that's why it's so important that we have a session coordinator for every session, because that way we know that the information about whether or not the proposal was accepted has gotten to a person.
Mm-hmm.
And then the session chair, as Joan pointed out, will chair the session, kind of move the session through during the session at the conference itself. Now, it is possible that the session coordinator and chair can be the same person.
Yes. Other questions?
Are there any other questions right now?
Great.
I'm not seeing any others.
Great. So I just want to refer back to the important dates. Most everything is due November 1st. Committee chairs, submit your committee meeting by November 1st. Focus group conference planners must submit their membership meeting by November 1st. Anyone proposing a pre or post conference and needing a grant for that needs to submit it by November 1st. What's also, oh no, it is here. All AV requests for your session must be submitted by November 1st. All grant requests must be submitted by, wait for it, November 1st. And finally, the one thing that is different is the focus group debut panel proposals do not need to submit the names of the winners until May 1st. but you have to submit your debut panel by November 1st. So we're going to get walk through the focus group pre-conference requests lightly, because there is a webinar that focuses on these. But just to know that the purpose of the pre-conference is to assist focus groups that are interested in expanding their educational focus. There are funds for this, and these funds should be used to foster creative, pedagogical, or scholarly activities that hold true to the organization's stated vision, mission, values, and goals. These grants are available for distribution, but may only support activities that occur between the time of the conference, which is July 22nd, 2014 through July 27th, 2014. There is a pool of money that is divided by the focus groups that seek out the grants, and that is decided by the 2014 conference committee. Applications can be fully or partially funded, and the grant process is, hello, sorry. The grant process is in that same place that we were earlier. If I go to sessions and I go to focus group reservation form, the webinar will walk you through all of this information too. It's a form I need to fill out for the pre-conference, the name, the organizers, times, any pertinent facts regarding that. And then the conference grant request form is there as well. Also information that you need to fill out. Just most of this is to let us know what we're funding, how much you need. And it follows the same format as the grant request, so I'm not going to go into detail here. I'll talk more about the grant request. But again, there is a webinar that focuses specifically on pre-conference. If you have any AV things, you will need to list all of that in there as well. If you have questions, oops, I clicked on the wrong one, sorry. If you have questions, the webinar will answer those. So I'm going to click into the conference grant and get into that right now. Oh, sorry. Too bad we're recording this one. Oh, sorry, here it is. So right under propose a session is the conference grant. And here, just to know that there are different ways that grants can be awarded. There are grants and guest passes, and they're awarded within the same time frame as the sessions. They should also be submitted by November 1st. And the session coordinators who asked for grants, you will receive your grant decision by early March, and that should come from your focus group conference planner. All the information here is needed, and you can apply for multiple guest passes, and you can apply for multiple grants, but per session. Is that right, Sean? Can they apply for a grant per session?
They have to.
Right, so you have to apply for each session that you would like a guest pass or a grant. You must apply separately. You have an individual grant request for each one of those. So let me be clear in case that wasn't clear. If I apply for session proposal 1 and I want a guest pass for that, I apply for conference grant 1. If I apply session proposal 2 and want a guest pass for that, I also need to do a conference grant number 2. You'll see up here that you want to list the goals and objectives of the grant, what the session title is. Again, this is where the session coordinator becomes very important in case we have questions about your grant. What focus group or committee you are applying for the grant from, and the budget. The total that you can get per session is $500, and you need to list it here. If, for instance, if your grant is only for travel, you want to put just a 0 in here. You want to make sure that all of these are filled. Sorry, somebody was excited there. And you don't want to use 100.75. You want to round up and make sure that the amount that you put in there is just a round number. And then the rest of these would be filled in like that. And you would put your total in there. And that would be your the way you would list your budget. The guest passes are awarded for various levels of, I guess, participation. And so if you have, say, a guest from the Phoenix theater community, a director who's coming to speak on your particular panel, and they're only coming that day to speak on that panel and they're leaving, you would want to apply for a guest pass. The guest pass is a $50 value, and they get admission to the session only. They don't get a program book. They don't get to attend any of the other sessions. They get a pass or a badge just to come in for your session. If you want an all-conference guest pass, that is slightly different. That has a higher value. It's typically reserved for the plenary speaker, someone who's coming from, say, a foreign country who's going to do more than one session, or someone who's presenting a paid workshop. All of these guest passes and session passes are vetted by the conference committee, but you need to let them know what kind of session it is that this person is participating in. You want to make sure you fill all of this out completely. Make sure that you are identifying specifically what each person will be doing. I want to take you, here we go. So the main thing to know when you're looking for a guest pass is that session guest passes are admit to the session only. All conference guest passes are complimentary and usually only given to those who with multiple sessions, people coming from foreign countries, plenary speakers, keynote, award recipients, etc. And then the conference grant request is something that you would fill out if you needed to supplement somebody's travel or lodging, if you're applying for an audiovisual grant because you need more than one piece of equipment than what you received for free. So are there any questions on the conference grants?
Not on conference grants specifically, but Kevin anyway
Sure.
asked, when do we hear back?
No later than March 1st. So I think that I could give you a quick overview of how things happen after your session proposals go into the void on November 1st, and that might help answer that question for you, Kevin. So all of this information gets submitted by November 1st, and then the ATHE staff, which is Sean and I at this phase mainly, download all of that information from the database and prepare it in Excel. Once we have all that prepared in Excel, I send out 4 documents to your focus group conference planners and your focus group reps with a list of all of the single sessions proposed for their focus group, all of the multidisciplinary sessions for which they are listed as sponsors, and then I send them ranking sheets for the single session proposals and the multidisciplinary proposals. That happens within right before Thanksgiving. I send them all of that information, and then they have 10 days to return it to me. I think this year the deadline is December 10th. So by December 10th, they send me all of their rankings, and then we go into a scheduling process. We have a scheduling phase, and then at the mid-year meeting in January, all the scheduling committee, the focus group, the conference committee for 2014, and the conference planners get together, and we look at all of the proposals, their rankings, and how they're scheduled. And a subcommittee of that group reviews all of the multidisciplinary proposals and makes sure that all of them, have 3 sponsors, aren't replicating somebody else's group. There's a lot of different ways that they vet those, and we come up with the final number of multidisciplinary panels that have been scheduled. Once all of that has been done, at the end of that meeting, I prepare all of that information and send it back to the focus group reps and conference planners. And that point is that is the point where they know which proposals have been submitted and which proposals have been accepted and which proposals have been rejected. And they have until and which conference grants have been granted, which guest passes, etc., AV grants. And they have until March 1st to go back to all of the session coordinators and make sure that there is no conflict of dates and times. We usually do a fairly good job of making sure that we don't have a really hot panel, like the top chosen panel from the acting focus group scheduled against the acting business meeting, so that people have to choose between those two things. But sometimes we miss those things, and the session coordinator or the conference planner then comes back to us and asks to change the date or time, and we try to accommodate as many of those requests as we can. The sooner those requests get back to us, the easier it is to make the changes. The closer we get to that May 1st deadline, the harder it is. So once all of that information starts to flow back to us between March 1st and May 1st, we're updating all of that information and starting to prepare the program book. Is that helpful? It's a long-winded response, but I think that it's probably useful for those of you who have not submitted a session proposal before to have an idea of your timeline.
Kevin says, yes, thanks.
Sure. Any other questions?
Joan, I'm seeing none. Oh,
great.
Wait a minute, I have one.
Great.
This goes back to earlier. Where can I find
Sure.
the descriptions of different session types, i.e. workshop versus panel discussion? I realize this is generally self-explanatory, but I'm mainly interested because I want to combine together panel discussion with possible workshop activities as well.
Great, fantastic. I'm going to skip forward a little bit in this summary. Actually, can you hold that question, because I'm going to come right back to that information in like 4 slides. Any other questions?
I see none.
Great. So I'll point out that the resource for you, whoever asked that question, when we get there. So just a reminder, these fancy tips that you will see throughout, these are very important. Please familiarize yourself with them as you are starting to submit your session proposal. Things to remember: November 1st, deadline for pre and post conference grants. Audiovisual needs, think through them before completing your session proposal so that you know what you might need. Hit submit twice. The session proposal deadline is November 1st. And the person who asked that question, here's where you will find the resources. If you go to this page of frequently asked questions, they should there should be a link there that describes what each of those things are: workshop, poster session, panel with roundtable, etc. And there is a precedent for combining panel and workshop together. It's just a matter of the timing of that. Hopefully that answered your question. Resources. Once we are done here, please, if you have other questions, please feel free to contact me at sessions@athe.org. I handle most things related to the conference registration, sessions, setting up information in the program book, session changes, scheduling, all of that information. Sean is at com@athe.org, and he is our um, our master of communications. Anything having to do with the web, the scheduling app, information on the web, how to locate the webinar, things like that, you can contact him. Cynthia Ward, who is admin assistant at athe.org. She is the person to contact with questions about conference, pre-conference, and particular AV needs once your session has been scheduled. And Nancy Erickson, who is our executive director, is the person who can answer any general questions, or once we get into the scheduling process, questions about scheduling changes. I just want to make sure that there is time for any final questions. If anybody out there has any final questions, I'm happy to answer them. And otherwise, I just want to remind you that once you finish this session, you'll receive a 5-question survey, and we would very much appreciate it if you would respond to it, as it helps us improve these webinars as we move forward. So are there any final questions that I can answer for you?
The only thing I see, Joan, is Anna Demers is thanking us both for our time.
Thanks, Anna. I appreciate it. And really, especially if you're a person out there and this is your first time submitting a proposal or coordinating a session, I would very much encourage you to contact your focus group rep or your focus group conference planner, and all that information can be found on the website. They're very helpful, and it's a great place to so I'm in conferences here, and you'll see at the bottom there's a place that says conference planners. This lets you know who is the conference planner and their email address for each of the focus groups. So if you have questions, concerns, you're trying to put together a multidisciplinary panel, these are great people to contact to talk about that. If you have questions that you need to direct to the focus group representative, you can go to this focus groups tab, and it will list all of the focus groups here and here. If you click on that, it will tell you about each focus group, and it will give you information about who to contact here. Your conference planners are listed again here, your focus group reps, your grad reps. So a lot of information about people you might want to talk to or find out more information. You can find that on the website, who to go to. But you can always contact us if you have questions as well.
And Joan, I don't see any other questions, just thanks and no from Ivan. That about covers it.
Great. Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. And if you have ideas for webinars that you would like to see in the future that you think would be helpful to the ATHE membership, please let us know.
Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.